Hey everybody, welcome to Tuesday. Before I begin, Ghost of Tsushima on Twitch tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern. Please join me. The game is a ton of fun. It is silly, pretty loveliness. What a palate cleanser for this Last of Us 2 saga. Now, hey, the traffic's been great. Welcome, new people who have discovered my channel through this. I hope you will stay with me while I go on and talk about other games and things in gaming. I am not normally as savage as I have been on The Last of Us 2, but I hopefully will continue to interest and amuse you. So, if you want to support my ongoing content as my traffic takes a dump, because people like to watch things where people are raging about something, not so much stuff they like. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Your support is greatly appreciated. So, the topic today is just why The Last of Us 2 is a hunk of steaming garbage as a game. And that doesn't mean there was nothing good about the combat, and that doesn't mean there was nothing good about the graphics, but there just wasn't enough combat to justify whatever the hell it cost. It's so hard to tell in Canada what the base price of a game is, because by the time the taxes kick in, it's like around $100, especially if you do like the disc protection. So like, people in the US are like, what? Yes, our dollar's lower. So games are more expensive up here. But The Last of Us 2 is a clunky, scattered mess that overuses certain cinematic devices, like walking in a room and getting suddenly attacked by somebody. Like, you'd think after the 60th freaking time, someone would learn to check their corners upon entering a room. Like, don't just walk in. You keep getting waylaid when you walk in rooms. Proceed with more caution. Like, but they want the big do. Oh my God, somebody catches you, right? Part to hide gargantuan load times, but you know, it got really long in the tooth because you came to expect it. I'm going to go through a door and get attacked by somebody. Why does this keep happening? And the lengthy periods of nothing where it's exploration. It was more, I'm fucking lost and I'm wandering around like an asshole because the levels don't make any sense and you don't clearly indicate what's climbable. And so on and so forth. There is a distinct lack of game in the game The Last of Us 2. And I have been trying to figure out for the life of me why there is so little game in this game. And people are like, but, yes, people. There are scenes where you shooty and stabby things. But there are far fewer scenes where you shooty, stabby than most games that have shooty, stabby. Yes, you do need to slow the pace of the game down at times so it is not totally overwhelming. Even Doom Eternal slows the pace down sometimes. But the combat in The Last of Us 2 is the exception as opposed to the rule. The cutscenes are astoundingly long, and the wide tracks of nothing where the characters are going on in that mind-numbing excuse for banter. It's like, why? Why? And then I came upon a particular plausible reason why. Because people don't deliberately make shit. People make things they think are good. So why, up the chain, did people think these things were good? Here's my theory. It's because what Neil Druckmann and company, well, especially Neil Druckmann, became truly interested in was the in-development HBO series, as opposed to actually making a video game. And this is understandable. You get a lot more cred and a lot more clout for making an HBO series than you do a video game. I don't think that's fair, but it is true. The worst HBO series gets way more, sorry, I forgot to move my exercise bike before I started, gets way more kind of critical juice, like pecking order in the entertainment industry. HBO series, video game, right? Makes sense from a cynical perspective. And when you start thinking about The Last of Us 2 as a launching pad to a TV series, premium cable, and not as a game to make a good game, suddenly all the decisions that are garbage for a video game make sense as a TV show. Now, hear me out, okay? Because they already said that it's going to start with Ellie and Joel's story. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers to come. Not just about Last of Us 2, but also like shows like Game of Thrones and Westworld. If you've seen those shows, HBO tends to cast a big name actor with a lot of cred, like Sean Bean, like Anthony Hopkins, to play a character that is written out as a main character at the end of season 1, usually because the character dies. Getting Ned Starked is sort of the HBO thing, right? So the HBO show could get a guy like Josh Brolin to play Joel and have him killed by Abby at the end of season 1. And that's the Ned Stark beheading, right? That's the, what's his name? Ford in Westworld's, like, you know, death by plot device. And I mean, Fingerprints, like the guy from who developed Chernobyl is the co-producer on, the co-creator on the Last of Us 2 HBO show. They got a Westworld writer to co-write the game, but I call her a writing sous chef because there's no way somebody who never written a video game before has a ton of creative control, just saying. But it all starts to make sense, right? That's why factions like the Seraphites and the Rattlers are so underdeveloped in the game. They are just things that seem to go nowhere. They are just staging grounds for gun battles, as opposed to meaningful factions. Because, well, they can do all the meaningful faction stuff in the TV show. We can see the Joan of Arc style, Seraphite leader in the show. We can learn more about the Rattlers in the show. You know, the Rattlers are very Walking Dead, though. So I wonder if that will kind of fall by the wayside, or they're just a faction that they kind of bring in because these shows need factions, right? You need the different houses in Game of Thrones. You need the different alliances in Westworld. This is very much HBO world building. And so all the stuff, I mean, the other interesting thing too is Riley apparently is a character in the TV show, even though Riley is only seen in the prequel of what is it, Last of Us Left Behind, I think it's called. But they could just like move Dina out of the way, put Riley in, have Riley as the love interest. All of a sudden it's a much better story, which might be why Dina is just kind of so not terribly interesting, right? They could have Ellie's farmhouse as a scene, that like all these interpersonal dramas that made no sense just angered me because everything was taking away from the game as a game. They were all cutscenes, but hey, they could do the hats on dinosaurs scene in an HBO series, and it'll be so heartwarming, and everybody would go, oh yeah, it's just like the video game, and people will ignore the fact that it was all of a sudden a walking simulator in the middle of a game that's supposed to be about stealth combat, crafting, and occasionally killing mushroom zombies. But all these locations, all these different areas, I wonder if they're giving themselves more options in terms of shooting locations. I mean, it's not gonna be like shot for shot the game, because they're not gonna wanna, and I mean, Game of Thrones moved around a lot, but they're not gonna one season have to go, oh, we gotta go Texas, now we gotta go Wyoming, and they'll figure out some way to stay more or less in one place just for budgets. But all of a sudden, all the stupid, why is everything made of drama decisions make sense. They can stretch out the Abby, Mel, Owen love triangle far longer than they did in the game. They can maybe even have a triangle with Riley and with Dina, and Dina's not so good, and, you know, all that stuff. I mean, they gotta watch Jesse in a TV show, because Jesse's very much like, what was his name, Glenn from The Walking Dead? Gotta watch that, man. But, yeah, I really, really think that at some point, Druckmann and company, like the people involved in the IP, set their sights on an HBO series instead of caring terribly about video games. Because let's face it, premium cable is a lot more glamorous work. For creators and showrunners, it's a lot less work. It's much easier. You get a lot more help. You don't have to worry about asset optimization and background loading on something that, you're building a set. You don't have to worry about interactivity. You don't have to worry about designing combat. It's just the big drama, right? And it even makes that ridiculous sex scene in The Last of Us 2 make sense, because nudity is required in HBO shows. I joke that HBO doesn't stand for home box office. It stands for hey boobs out. Because the decisions that were made in that game, as a game, don't make any sense. Why would you bring a new faction in with 3 hours to go? Why would you have all those characters that we don't really get a chance to know terribly much before you kill them? And why are Ellie and Abby's internal motivations so shallow and in some ways lacking? They're just setting up the puzzle pieces so that, an entire room of writers on an HBO show with a professional showrunner can go in and fix the crap. So instead of people going, oh, this wasn't as good as the game, people go, oh my God, it's so much better. This all makes sense now. It's way, way, way better, which is the excuse people use to finally admit that the flawless masterpiece of the past wasn't so flawless and it wasn't a masterpiece. I had a conversation about game franchises you are not allowed to criticize kind of thing, and we were joking about, you got slaughtered for criticizing BioShock Infinite at launch. That seems kind of funny now. The other game you weren't allowed to criticize was The Witcher 2. Witcher fans would go nuts. You're now allowed to criticize The Witcher 2 because Witcher 3 was objectively just so much better. You couldn't criticize Halo 3 onward, even though what the heck was going on in ODST? Okay, Reach was really iffy, but I still maintain the Halo franchise hit its high watermark in terms of campaign in Halo 2. That is how you take a villain and turn them into a playable character and have a player have empathy for this character. Way better, Arbiter, better than Abby fight me. But after that, Bungie just seemed less and less and less interested in creating a cohesive, meaningful money for your value for your money single player experience. They dumped everything into multiplayer, and that's fine, but I think it actually did damage Halo as an IP because the spell just eventually broke, and once they took out, couch co-op, the franchise just very, very quickly faded from. Remember when Halo was like the game? Like so culturally dominant. I know it's hard to see through the mists of Call of Duty, but yeah, I mean, Halo was so dominant for a while, and there's an example of they tried to spin it off into a TV series, and the writing was not good, and so it didn't catch. And this is the peril with the Last of Us 2 franchise going forward. It is now officially culture war. It is going to get a lot of noise when it premieres on HBO. If it premieres on HBO, these things are never guaranteed. I suspect, because there's, some pretty good pedigree on this show, and because now Neil Druckmann's the rookie. Now, Neil Druckmann is in the position that Haley Gross would have been in, I think that's her name, writing a video game for the first time. Druckmann's going to walk into those HBO writers' rooms, and they're all going to be, okay, video game guy, this is TV. Listen to us about how to write TV. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't part with the series early and just step back and just take the money. That TV development is not for him because he doesn't have the schlep that he did at Naughty Dog, but we'll see. Maybe he just likes the lifestyle of TV, of premium cable, more than video games. And I wouldn't blame him. At his level, it's a lot easier to be a head creative or a showrunner for a TV show than it is to make a AAA video game. It is just objectively much, much, much easier. It's chaos, and there's a lot of yelling, and there's a lot more very dominant, horrible motherfucker personalities, but based on what we've seen of his brilliance in Last of Us 2, he might fit right in. Who knows? He might get devoured alive because now he's a small fish in a big pond. But, there are a lot of reasons why a creator would want to move from AAA video game development to premium cable. Money's better. It's an easier job. The perks are better. It's more glamorous. It's more prestigious. So I don't necessarily think that focusing on an HBO property was the wrong business call. Look at the cultural impact of Game of Thrones before they shit the bed season 8. But there is clearly a divided loyalty in The Last of Us 2 in terms of what are they going for and what is important. And there was clearly a desire to not make Joel nearly as much of a linchpin. There was definitely this requirement that it become more of an ensemble franchise and less the story of two people, one of whom is a child, right? This is very evident. And that doesn't make sense from a video game perspective because you can do a game with two characters. Well, heck, it's a lot cheaper and a lot tighter than a game with, God, the extended cast on The Last of Us 2 was huge. But for a TV show where, you have to kill people off every season because that's what gets people talking and that's what gets you trending on Twitter and gets you write-ups and like Entertainment Weekly and Forbes. you have to create the churn, right? You have to create a formula where people go, people come, they go, new people come, and it's about the world and the factions in the world more than it is any individual character, in part because then if you get into a contract snag with one of the leads, well, you just write them out by killing their character or they go off somewhere. But this is the only thing that makes sense because people don't set out to make a bad game. One of 3 or 4 things happen. 1, they go crazy. That's possible too. Game dev is hard. 2, they lose interest and really want to do other things. We saw that with the Halo franchise and Bungie and Destiny. They didn't want to be under Microsoft's thumb anymore. Or 3, there's something in the business development model that is making them dilute what makes their product good. And we have seen this, remember Dead Space 3 and all those microtransactions and forced co-op mode and all that stuff instead of just being a single player experience. No, we had to have all these bells and whistles and it just broke the cohesion of the thing. For instance, there have been other game franchises that have kind of lost it because it's trying to do too many things to fit into an evolving financial model as opposed to just making good interactive art. And that is what I think happened with Last of Us 2. The minute the idea of an HBO series started being dangled in front of... and I'm sure Neil Druckmann does not own the IP outright. I'm sure there are a lot of people at Naughty Dog who are chomping at the bit to do this, considering, they're making an Uncharted movie as well. We all know what Sony's aspirations are regarding their Western IP, right? They want Uncharted to be a movie. They wanted Ratchet and Clank to be a movie. The Spider-Man thing, they want IPs that transfer, that translate, that, you can make a game, but then they've got formerly Columbia Pictures, now Sony Pictures. They have that whole other division that they are interested in cultivating because the margins are so much higher. So there are very meaningful financial reasons to make a game franchise less good to push it at some Hollywood premium cable or film company. And this is an important thing to understand for games because this is also Hollywood trying to make sure they stay dominant as gaming becomes an increasingly popular hobby. So we'll see. I'm very interested to see if my predictions about the show are right. It's a plausible, educated guess, though, isn't it? All right, I'll wrap there. Thanks for watching. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Remember, Tsushima, tonight, 6 p.m. See you there on Twitch. Red Leanna K.